Hello, everyone. You're welcome to my platform, BeGreat on Air. On this platform, as you know, what we do is that we do analysis of political, social, and economic issues. We break them down for you to understand, for everyone to understand. So, please, if you're new here, kindly subscribe to this platform for me, share my content, and like my content. Right? Let's grow this platform together. On today's edition of BeGreat on Air, I am going to do something on the political history or on the politics of vice presidential candidates in Ghana, right? So I'm going to look at the vice presidential candidates that are chosen by various political parties, right, in Ghana. But today I'm going to focus specifically on the NPP's vice presidential candidate. Presidential candidates politics or history, right? I do this because this time around, going to the 2024 elections, it is their choice that presents an interesting twist here, right? Now, the NDC's case, as it stands now, we are told that they have already settled on Professor Jenano Boko Ajiman. As you may be aware, Professor Jenano Boko Ajiman ran alongside with His Excellency the former President John Dramani Mahama in the 2020 elections, and so she has been retained, as is being reported. She's been retained, to run again with His Excellency the former President John Dramani Mahama. And so really many people anticipated this. So it's really not a news in itself, because most people anticipated that the former president would retain the good professor, because of course he needed to make a case, right? And he needed to also bring the gender view and the diversity representation, equal representation for both male and female. So of course, most people anticipated, like myself. So that is why I'm going to today focus on the political history or the politics of choosing a running mate within the NPP. Now, I will start with you from the 1979. In 1979, the NPP group, or the group that grew to become the NPP, was led by Victor Owusu. In other words, Victor Owusu was the presidential candidate for the NPP in the 1979 elections, right? The NPP, or as it were, their tradition, the Dankwa Buzia Dombo tradition. So Victor Owusu was the presidential candidate for them. Now, you would notice that he had to choose a vice presidential candidate. Now, in that elections, it presented a South-North ticket. In other words, the main candidate, which was Victor Owusu, was coming from the South. If I say South, I mean any other part aside the northern part of Ghana, the northern regions, right? The northern regions that we have. So Victor Owusu, coming from the South, had to choose someone per the politics from the north. Now, the main contender for this position was ERT Majete, right? Now, Majete was a former police commander. In fact, he was a diplomat and a politician and a police commissioner. He was a founding member of the NPP, and he was also key within the PFP, the Popular Front Party, that was established during that days as a protest against a Champions regime. Right. He later became a member of parliament for Menya Krobo constituency. As of then, we had Menya Krobo constituency. Right. So that was the caliber of person he was, right? Majete, that was the caliber of person he was. So he was tipped to be the vice president for Victor Owusu. In the lead up to that, Victor Owusu changes his mind and now went in for someone else because he needed a representation of the North, right? So he went in for Alhaji Yakubu Tali, who was then the parliament chief, right, in the northern part of Ghana. So that is how the politics went. The person who was in the lead, which was Majete, did not get a bid to become the vice president. Now, away from that, when you move to 1992, the person leading the NPP then was Professor Edu Boahin. He was a professor at the University of Ghana then, and he was a leading member of the new Patriotic Party. He was a flag bearer of the party, and he had to make a choice to decide who his vice president is going to be. right? In that instance too, Professor Addo Boahen had to go for someone he trusted could work. Not only that, but the politics of representation also had a role to play. Because he, Professor Addo Boahen, was coming from the south, at the same time he has to go for someone who was coming from the north, like the same way Victor also did. So Professor Addo Boahen had to settle on Roland Al-Hassan. So he settled on Roland Al-Hassan for the 1992 election, though they lost, right? But that was the politics that played out. It means from the NPP, from these two examples, from the NPP, between 1979 and 1992, the card has always been a representation of the South and a representation of the North. Mainly, the face or the main leader has been the South, and the vice coming from the North. Now, President Akuffo became the running mate, the presidential candidate for the NPP. Now, he also searched for, he also searched for running mate. Now, the story is told of how President Akuffo settled on Alhaji Aliyu Mahama. In fact, President Akuffo, as part of choosing who a running mate is, or who should be his running mate, set up a committee to look into the matter or to decide on someone. In fact, Alhaji Aliyu Mahama was the chairperson of the committee, and they did a lot of work. They never got anyone to be President Akuffo's running mate, to the extent that they settled on Dr. Edward Mahama. You remember Edward Mahama, right? He was the presidential candidate for PNC, but Edward Mahama declined to be President Akuffo's running mate. Right. Now, the story is told that after some time that they were running against time, President Akuffo now had to tell Ali Mahama that I want you to be my running mate. Just get it. Right. So Aliyu Mahama, who was the chairperson of the committee to search for a vice president, now becomes the vice presidential candidate for President Akuffo. And fortunately for President Akuffo, Aliyu Mahama was coming from the north, and before that, he had been a member of the NPP, right? So it was easy for Akuffo. So President Akuffo's ticket also present a south and a north, representation, making it south-south. So you will see that for the three consecutive times, the NPP's ticket has always been a north and a south, right? That is the south leading, the north behind, or to say the north being the vice and the south being the main, right? One thing is that in that elections or in choosing the running mate, the main contenders or the front runners who wanted to be vice were never given the nod, right? Someone like Rebecca Hawa Yakubu, Professor Wayo, all of them, they were in the lead, but they were never given the nod. That's how the politics is. So it appears that doing the bid for the vice presidential position, people who are always the forerunners or are always in the lead do not get a nod, at least for two consecutive times or for two examples set. Right, so that is something that comes with President Akuffo's ticket. Now, straight to 2008. In 2008, President Akuffo-Addo now becomes then candidate Akuffo-Addo now becomes the candidate for the new Patriotic Party. Now, in that elections or before that elections, the decision on the running mate names came up. In fact, the four runners in that elections or in that bid was Hajia Aliyu Mahama, who was then Minister for Gender and Children's Affairs, Alhaji Sadiq Boniface, right, who was also a Minister of State, Alhaji Malik Yakubu, Alhaji Mustafa Idris, including others, like Obiche Bilamte, Alan Tremantin, and Rashid, Bawa, and all those stuff. But the four runners were the first four names I mentioned. So people were tipping them to become the running mate. But as things turned out, none of them became. There are so many reasons why they didn't become. Now, let me start from here. President Akuffo-Addo declared that he wanted his running mate to come from the northern part of Ghana. That is, he wanted to follow tradition, like what President Akuffo did, like what Addo Boahen did, and like what Victor also did. So President Akuffo-Addo, then candidate Akuffo-Addo, said he wanted his running mate to come from the north. So they had to settle on someone. So it means that the people leading were the first four. Now, with Alhaji Malik Yakubu and Alhaji Mustafa, right? They were the Gumbes. Now, as soon as he declared that he wanted his running mate to come from the north, there are so many tribes at the north, right? So the tribal politics now came to play between the Gumbes, the Gonjes, the Mamprusis, and the likes, right? So what happened was that in terms of Alhaji Malik Yakubu and Alhaji Mustafa Idris, they were the Gumbes. And if you follow political history and chieftaincy issues in Ghana, during that time was the Dagbon crisis. So they did not want someone who was coming from Dagbon and was associated with the crisis because it could work against them politically. So for that reason, they ditched Alhaji Yakubu and Alhaji Idris, right? Now it came to the Gonjas and the Mamprusis. Now the Gonjas, the leading people were Alhaji Sadiq Boniface and Alhaji Jawula, right? And the Mamprusis, Hajia Alima Mahama. Now, what Hajia Alima Mahama, well, for her, she could have been the favorite, right? Because some people were pushing for her, but for some reasons she could not go through. One thing keyly that worked against her, they used against her, was the fact that she was unmarried. And they said they could not sell an unmarried woman as their vice presidential candidate, so she could not come in. So she was out. Now, the battle was between Sadiq Boniface and Jawela. Now, Boniface was seen as being too ambitious. And so he was not really, the proper fit or the choice for them. Now, when it comes to Alhaji Jawela, for him, he made a mistake where doing a rally in the Gonja land, a paramount chief made a public appeal to President Akuffo-Addo, or former candidate Akuffo-Addo, to make Alhaji Jawula the vice presidential candidate. They did not like it, and so they ditched him. Now, President Akuffo-Addo now had to go for someone else. There came Bawumia, a new face, someone who was not known at all to the politics, right? Or who was not part of the forerunners. He came up, President Akuffo-Addo went for him, and he settled. In fact, Alpha Kennedy, who wrote Chasing the Elephant into the Bush, recount how it all turns out. So Bawumia came into the picture, and President Akuffo-Addo settled on him, and they went into 2008 elections, 2012 elections, and until 2016 when they won. So the lesson here is that in the NPP politics, one, it has always been, since 1979, it has always been a South-North ticket, right? So you must at all costs have a southern person on it and a northern person on it, and it has been the trend. The second thing is that the people who are always in the picture do not become the running mates, or do not get the nod to become the running mates. It is always the people who are not in the picture, those who are termed as the dark horses, right, who get into the picture to become the vice presidential candidate for the NPP. Now, going to the 2024 elections, things have changed. Now, unlike the traditional southern person leading, this time around, a northern person leading, right? His Excellency the Vice President Bawumia, he is a northern person, he is leading. So now, it's interesting to know who will become the vice president to the flag bearer of the NPP. It is so simple to state that that person will be a southern person. Looking at the tradition of the NPP, there must always be one person on the ticket. But this time around, a northern person leading and a southern person is going to. But who is going to be that southern person? Names like Napo, the Minister of Energy has come up, and then the Minister of Education, Dr. Duchum, Apostle Opokunina, the former chairperson of the Church of Pentecost has come up. Akosia Fimo Pari, the chief of staff, her name has come up, and all those stuff. Now I'll take time in another episode or next episode to do analysis of all these people. But for now, that's how I'm going to end today's analysis. Kindly subscribe to this platform and let's learn together. Thank you for watching.